I have literally been in the art supply business my entire life. I have been around it since the day I was born. It's my family business. And with that comes experience. Experience at my very young age. Pay no attention to the chin. But I have been in a studio or two, or three, or a couple dozen, or maybe triple digits. And they come in all shapes and sizes. I've seen large studios, small studios, warehouse studios, kitchen table studios. I've seen studios that are in paint factories. I've seen studios out of the back of a car. I've seen so many studios. It's been an honor, a pleasure. And there is one theme, though, that I feel is more common than uncommon. One thing that ties most of them together, and that is mass chaos. Mass chaos. You tell him, Bill Murray.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Right, mass chaos. Well, I mean, let me ask you a question. Do you have mass chaos? Or do you have chaos? I don't want to put you on all the way on that end of the spectrum. I don't know if I went from up here to over there. Doesn't matter. Bottom line. Have you ever asked yourself, oh, where's that tube of ultramarine blue? Or, my number 12 filbert, where'd it go? Or you've got a client coming, waiting to pick up their commissioned art, and you don't know where it is. And you're like, where's that piece I just finished? Have you asked yourselves questions like these? You might have an organizational problem. Now, I will tell you, because I have severe obsessive compulsive disorder, but I am also very much in the thick of it when it comes to art supplies, my pain is going to be your gain, because I've had to find coping skills to help me kind of figure out what's the right level. And what I've found, that the right level of organization is what I like to call controlled chaos. Chaos is a little important. I think it's important to the creative process. I think that if you have such a very rigid area, a very sterile area, it doesn't lend itself to the creative process. So we need a little bit of chaos, but we also need it to be functional. Because at the end of the day, if you're spending any amount of time looking for something, you've just wasted the most precious resource you have. You can make more money, you can make more art, but you cannot make more time. It is the most precious resource. And I've said that in previous videos, and I'm going to say it again. It is true. So, what's a girl to do? I ask myself that all the time. What are we supposed to do in order to reach the right level? Okay? So, what we want is that controlled chaos, and I'm going to go through some organizational tools as well as some items that I have recently been using in my own studio that I have found to be extremely helpful. Now, there are some artists that are art supply collectors. We've addressed that in the past. But that really need a lot of art supplies because they make a lot of artwork. And I've just seen tubes of paint thrown everywhere haphazardly. If you have several tubes of paint, right, I would suggest binning them, right? I have literally seen paints just on shelves left and right. It's not hard. And it's not necessarily expensive. Now, let me show you one of the things that I like to do is you get these boxes. So, like, these are from a company called Uline. You can buy them in bulk. They fold together really easily. Back in the 90s, I put together about 3,000 of these while we were building out our warehouse here when we moved to North Carolina. And I'm not sitting there saying, well, because you have 50 ultramarine blues, put them all in here. Most people don't have that. But if you have like big tubes of paint, just put all your blues together, put all your hog bristle brushes together. It depends on the mass you have of supplies. But for some people, this is a very inexpensive option. And then you can just write on here, blue acrylic paint. And then you can just reach for it rather than reaching into a bucket or literally like a trash can bin of paint. I have seen some crazy stuff. And that might seem like a no-brainer to you, but on the other hand, you might not have thought about it, so just a little tip there. You can start binning things out if you have large quantities of them, all right? I know that this is easier for me than it is for some, but really, it makes a big difference. Unless you know with 99% certainty that you're going to come back at some point that day, clean up clean up. Clean up after yourself. It's little messes that turn into big messes, okay? So if you've got your studio organized and you've, you feel good about it and like, all right, well, look, I got all this stuff. And then there's a few pencils laying out there like, oh, I'll get to them later. It doesn't matter. There's a few pencils. Put them away. I don't even know how to express that the way I feel. Put them away. It bothers me. No, put them away because I do believe that you're getting into the habit of tidying up a bit after yourself. Now, like I said, it's not always the most efficient thing to do if you know that you're going to be coming back to it in a very short amount of time. Maybe I shouldn't even say that day, but like the next day or something, right? And this is also a good habit to save you money because a lot of times people will do things like, I don't know, leave their brushes in water or thinner and damage them, ruin them. You want to clean up after everything, especially your tools, man, because some of these brushes are expensive and they can last a very long time with just a little bit of care. And then it's a tool that you've made an investment in and it will last you that much longer. So keep that in mind. You don't want to leave things sitting out long. You want to get in the habit of sort of tidying up after yourself when it's appropriate. And only you really know that level, okay? But it is important that even if it's just these two pencils, right? You cleaned everything up, but there's just those two pencils. Well, it's just two pencils, but it's not. There's like a psychological thing that goes on, right? No, I'm going to put it all away. I'm going to put the pencils away, okay? And that's it. Now, what does away mean? Well, there are different levels of away too, and we will get to that. So we've talked about, like binning your paints or maybe binning your brushes. As I've said, not everybody needs or wants or has that large a quantity of paints. But one thing we haven't touched on is your art. You have your work in progress. You have your finished pieces. That needs to be organized too. So let's take those prints. Anything that's done on paper, basically. I really think that a very inexpensive investment are things like our crystal seal bags. Now, this is what I use them for. I bag and tag. So what does that mean? Well, you don't want to necessarily label everything directly on your artwork outside of maybe your signature, maybe the edition it is. These bags will not only protect the artwork from the elements around it, but also you can put stickers on them and stuff, right? Charcoal on watercolor paper, watercolor on watercolor paper, the title of it, what you want to sell it for, whatever it is. And if you are so inclined, you can then sell those pieces if you are at an art festival or whatever in that manner. If you want to go so far as to put them in a mat already and put them in those crystal seal bags, they look really sharp. I can show you just an example. So like here's a painting by Caroline Jasper. So, this is how she would sell it at these festivals. So it was in a pre-cut mat, in a crystal seal bag, and then on the back, signature, a little bit of information, business card, and an organizational method here at the bottom. Okay, letters and numbers, whatever works for you. Regardless of the size though, okay, so that works for paper prints. When we start getting larger, and you can't do that necessarily, the other thing that I really like to do, because it's so easy and it really doesn't take that much time, is simply photograph the art, right? Photograph it, and then you can just tag what it is in the file name, right? And then you can put that in a bin, a fold, like a virtual bin where you keep your digital photos of, okay, this is artwork that I have put on the top shelf of my dresser. This is artwork that I put into long-term storage. This is where the artwork is for my commissioned pieces. And it's also very important, I've brought this up before, if you can, in my opinion, limiting the amount of active projects you have can be very helpful. I've always said around 3 is a sweet spot for most artists. I'm not saying all. There are some artists that are like, that Andy Warhol. I got a factory going. I don't know what you're talking about. I do 50 pieces a day. That's fine. And then there are other people who are like, well, I just work on the one piece for a few months. I'm like, that's fine too. But what I see is people like to switch things up. It's sort of like taking that step back from your artwork a little bit by going to another piece. Too many, and you've got mass chaos a little bit, and you've got some controlled chaos. You've got a little bit of, I'm going to switch to this project now just to get my eyes off of this project. By keeping it down to 3, that's also a lot of less active projects everywhere in your way. Now, I told you that we would talk about some tips, but I also wanted to share with you some tools, okay? And I think these tools are particularly good for that controlled chaos, all right? Because when it comes to putting art supplies away, well, sometimes that means that, especially if you're not, one of those people with a really large studio, that means that you're going to have to get yourself sort of set up again. And I've always said, if you have just a small area in your house that you use to do your art, dedicate some space to it so that it's not a huge production to get yourself started to art. Because I know that if I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, I'd like to paint, but I don't feel like going underneath my bed and pulling out my easel and then getting out my tabouret and then squeezing out. Like if there's too many steps, you're going to talk yourself out of it. And again, we're dealing with all kinds of different skill levels and professional levels here. But I know that for me, that's something that I just know that having things at the ready really makes it easier. But how do we have something at the ready, but also put away, but also controlled chaos? Okay, this is something that I truly believe was a game changer for me in my art, and I'm hoping it will be a game changer for you. What if I told you that there was a level in between cleaning everything up, because there is something very convenient, right? And more or less, this isn't even the most chaotic, if I was looking at a 3x5 foot block of any particular studio, this is hardly the most chaos I've ever seen. But there is something about having tools sort of out and at the ready, but this is still not conducive. The table's taken up, even if I'm working on an easel, it's just messy. So how do we rein this in but still have art supplies at the ready, right? Because we don't want it to be, as I said, a big production to set up doing art. So let me introduce you to the Mezzo Racks. Now this right here is controlled chaos, all right? You got all your stuff out on the table, but you can find it, all right? So the Mezzo Racks are not brand new. We've had the Mezzo Racks for a little bit now. Some of these items are new. We just came out with this beautiful brush spinning rack that lets you hang the brushes to dry properly, as well as this one specifically for drawing supplies, which is awesome. These are a modular system. And I am a little biased because my sister Heather did help develop this project. And I think that it was brilliant, okay? So this isn't even all the different ones that they make, but you can figure out what would work for you for what your space would be, and then get organized, but have it all ready for you. Now, one of the things that we discussed before making the video in pre-production was that the fact that since the pandemic, a lot more people are working at home. And I am willing to bet that a lot of you guys that have a home studio is now also kind of becoming your home office too. And in those situations, it's even more important that you have that controlled chaos, especially if you're in a Zoom meeting and you're trying to look professional and you've got, a big mess behind you of tubes of paint. So these come in all different shapes and sizes to hold your tubes, your brushes, your drawing supplies. And like I said, they are modular, so you can add and subtract what you need. I am a huge proponent of these things. I really, truly, personally believe in these products as being one of the ultimate tools, because you can put things in drawers all day long. When it's in your line of sight, whether you're doing art or not, it is that constant reminder of like, oh yeah, I should be making art. I can make art. And putting things away in a drawer is also that like production to get setting up. So you're organizing your materials in an accessible way. I keep hitting this thing. Who put this here? Nobody's using this. I guess it's a drawing tool. Okay, I've used it. But I don't just flick it on the floor. I put it right in the bin. That's me, right in the bin, boy. So besides the fact that they are, in my opinion, super convenient, right? They are also super easy to put together. And that's coming from me, okay? My wife has to assemble every toy that comes for our kids. I am just not handy. I was able to put these together. And I want you to look at how these come, okay? So for example, this big guy right here fits in a box this size, all right? They come broken down like this. And that also means that if you don't need it, you can break it back down and put it back in the box. They are assembled very quickly and disassembled just as quickly and can be reassembled again, no problem. And as I've said, depending on the type of art supplies you have and the amount of space you have, you can figure out what works best for you. I just want to bring special attention to why I think that this brush rack is so fantastic, okay? Because this brush rack has something that I think that is extremely useful, especially when we talk about, the importance of preserving your brushes. The very best way to dry your brush is hanging upside down, right? Now, a completely dry brush, you can store it, upright. I guess I should do that rather than pulling it out of there. If your brush is wet or it needs to dry, a lot of people wind up either putting them up like this, which is not great for the brush because if it's still wet, there's still sediment. And even if it's dry, just with gravity, you want any kind of particulates to be coming out of the hair, not further into the hair, into the ferrule, right? Does that make sense? So a lot of people wind up just letting their brushes dry flat, which is the easiest option, and it's not a bad option. But the best option for brush life preservation is hanging them upside down to dry. And this rack also has a plastic piece here covering the wooden part underneath, and this will keep your brushes newer, longer, and help them maintain their shapes better longer. But I really, really, really personally believe that any artist that can look at these and say, that could be slightly helpful, should have an opportunity to try them. So we're going to do a special promotion for this weekend only, okay? So we put these videos up on Friday, all right? So you're going to look for a special coupon code down below. We're going to put every single one of these sets on a very special price for you from today until Sunday at midnight on Sunday, all right? So it's for this weekend only. I mean, they're not super expensive, but I really want to get these in your hands so that you can really experience just how much more enjoyable it is to make art when you have that habit of having your art supplies at the ready. I want you to get in the habit. Once you get one of these, right, you're going to put a material in a place, and that's its place. That's how you're going to develop your muscle memory, right? You're going to know this is where my yellow is. This is where my red is. You might not even have to look. Okay, I would still look. But the point is, once things are in its place, it's sort of like how you would organize your palette, right? You're not going to start putting your Indian yellow on the opposite side of where you would keep your cadmium orange. Like, you want to sort of know where your colors are, and that just makes it easier. It's muscle memory on your palette. And it's the same thing with this, right? I don't like to come up here and push product really hard. I think if the product speaks for itself, so be it. And honestly, I think this product really does speak for itself. But I mean, I've never had a product. Let's just say there's very few that I personally have felt such a strong. I felt it made such a strong difference to my day-to-day art. So let me know in the comments below, what are some organizational tips that you have or organizational tools that you have that help with your creative process? This is part of the community of sharing. I do know that we have all kinds of other methods of storing art supplies. We have 3-drawer, 4-drawer shelves. We've got tabourets, and those are all fantastic too. What makes this unique is it's right there in front of you. So that's why, again, just to push that, you're not putting them away, but you are putting them away. So I just love that. So was this helpful to you? I want to know. We want to keep the dialogue going, keep the conversation going in the comments below. Please be sure to like this video if it was helpful to you. Ring the bell to be notified when we post new videos, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll meet you on our next problem. What did I say it was going to be? Procrastination? Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I wrote a joke. It's not a good joke, but I messed it up. I can add it in, though. Have you ever asked... Now it's like so stupid, but okay, I'm going to do it anyway. Have you ever been like, I just need a blank sheet of paper. Where is it? Where's my goldfish? What did I do with my paint thinner? Where is my goldfish? These are important things to know where they are, okay? Some more than others, all right? Especially that commission piece. Okay. I told you it was stupid. Don't judge me with the lollipop. The lollipop judgment hurts. It cuts deep, Jamie.